Normally I wouldn't record so late at night, but sometimes something happens in the world of FPL that just blows the game wide open. It gets into your mind and you just can't stop thinking about it, and you have to come down and get it out of your system just so you can get to sleep at night. You can see I'm in my dressing gown. My beautiful wife's gone up to bed, which is why I'm talking a little bit quieter. But earlier today I watched a video by Triggerlip, and my god, it may well have blown the world of FPL wide open this season. You see, what Triggerlip did, he was on the hunt for captaincy clues. He started a captaincy clue series at the end of last season, and he was out hunting for those game week 1 captaincy clues. I've run some analysis on his video, I've analysed it frame by frame, and I think inadvertently Triggerlip may well have blown FPL wide open and somehow uncovered the perfect squad. You'll have to bear with me a bit because I am talking a bit quieter. This is all still fresh in my brain. I might ramble a bit. I might have to do a little bit of editing. I might have to look away from the screen at times to see my notes. I'm stuttering a bit because I'm tired, but this information, it's so powerful. FPL could have changed forever because of one underperforming video by Triggerlip that all these FPL geniuses, they'll overlook because it's a bit different, it's a little bit weird. But so Triggerlip is, and do you know what it is about Triggerlip? He has 4 top 1000 finishes. He finished 35th in the world not so long ago. He has been to levels in this game that most managers have not, and part of the reason is because of his outside of the box thinking. And there has never been outside of the box thinking quite like what Triggerlip put on this video. So I am going to go through it frame by frame, not frame by frame, but I am going to skip to the key parts of the video to show you how Triggerlip and his trusty Parrot have unleashed perhaps the perfect FPL squad. Right, so our story begins when he goes to meet this parrot and he sees it on the roof, and you know, it's a very funny video. The parrot nicks his muffin. He runs off with Triggerlip's muffin, and Triggerlip is not happy. He even had to cut a little bit. You can go over to his Twitter and you can see on the outtakes where he calls him the C word. But the thing is, he wasn't looking. The C word he was looking for from this parrot was the game week 1 captain, C for captain. And he ran through a list of names. He asked him about Bowen, he asked him about Haaland, he asked him about Salah, he asked him about Palmer, and the parrot, he said nothing until the name Florian Wirtz came up, where the parrot, he squawked his head off at the thought of Florian Wirtz being the game week 1 captain. So that is the first clue for this squad that I have uncovered in Triggerlip's video. Florian Wirtz as the game week 1 captain. From there we skip forward to 2 minutes and 54 seconds where Triggerlip says the key phrase, like a Swiss, and then the camera pans over to show 5 cars on the screen. Now, who is the Swiss number 5? Well, that is Fabian Schär, and you can't spell Schär without the letters C-A-R for car. But shh, let's keep that between us. So there we've got 2 names in our squad, Florian Wirtz and Fabian Schär. And yes, you may be thinking the Schär one's a bit tenuous, but stay with me because we have got more than enough names to make up a squad. We not only have a squad, we have options that we have found from the clues in Triggerlip's video, and this is going to start blowing your mind before long because this goes deep. This goes so deep. So now we skip forward to 3 minutes and 38 seconds. And he asked the parrot outright about players. He asked, is Bowen too overpriced for the squad? The parrot, nothing. Bowen's fine. He asked about Aït-Nouri. The parrot says nothing. Aït-Nouri's fine. He asked about Palmer and Haaland, and again the parrot says both are fine. Right up until the name Mohamed Salah is presented. And then again the parrot squawks the alarm. Salah overpriced. don't have him in your squad. And you know, in my draft the other day I came up with, I showed you on my live stream, my draft does not have Mo Salah in, and I think it's the best draft I've seen so far from anyone. But that's before I saw what this draft Nick Triggerlips has come up with inadvertently in these clues. So adding to the squad, we get Bowen, we get Aït-Nouri, we get Palmer, and we get Erling Haaland. So after giving us those names, that's the end of the Parrot's involvement in the video. And you may say, FPL Nightmare, why are you taking the word of Nick Triggerlips' Parrot? But I'll tell you something, Nick Triggerlips, he is a man of mysterious ways. When you live down under, you do things a little bit differently. You know how to turn FPL on its head, and that's why he came 35th in the world. And Nick Triggerlips, maybe he's thinking, why wait until all those big name content creators, those algorithm acolytes, they all start parroting FPL review? Why wait for the parroting when you could go straight to the parrot? And that's what Nick Triggerlips has done, so we're going to see where this one goes. And I'll tell you where it goes, to 4 minutes and 13 seconds, where Nick Triggerlips pulls up to a sign, and just to the side of the screen you can see that there's like a little wagon thing, but when it's cut in half it looks just a little bit like a cannon that's very similar to the crest of Arsenal. And also on the screen is a sign, but we'll come back to that a little bit later on, because first we need to stick with this Arsenal theme. And just over a minute later, at 5 minutes 20 seconds, Nick Triggerlips' camera pans to a pile of logs. A pile, you could say, of timber. Not only that, just shortly afterwards, the camera shows up on the screen the number 10 for 10 miles an hour. Number 10 for Bukayo Saka, another Arsenal connection. So you see, this is why we skipped the sign, to get these Arsenal connections in. Jurriën Timber and Bukayo Saka, they get added to Nick Triggerlips' mystical squad. And I know you're thinking, bloody hell, FPL Nightmare, you're going off the rails a bit here. This is just a bit too out there for FPL. Let me tell you, we've not even got started yet. These are the obvious ones you could find. Anybody could come up with these. But to find some of these ones coming up in just a couple of minutes, well, you have to be a little bit tapped in the head. You have to be dancing with disorder to understand what's really going on here. But first we'll go back to that sign, the Beeley Hotel. And the thing about the Beeley Hotel, it's world renowned. They know all about the Beeley Hotel all across the globe, and there's reviews all over TripAdvisor. And this is getting deep into the weeds, but if you scroll to page 22 of the reviews, there is a review by a man who would like to remain anonymous, going only by the initials BM. Could that be Brian Mbeumo? We're not quite sure, but do you know what? We're going to add Mbeumo to the squad just in case. And now you're going to see why I couldn't sleep before, why I had to get back up when my beautiful wife went to bed, because this is where the clues start getting just a little bit wild. This is where they start making me question my state of mind. But I'm telling you, when you're looking for an edge in FPL, you'll find it anywhere. And maybe we have found the edge here, because here at 7 minutes and 9 seconds we pan to the sign, and on the sign this is about the giant moa, the Deinonychus maximus, a rare mythical creature native to Triggerlips' New Zealand. But what do we find if we take those words, giant moa, Deinonychus maximus? Well, what if it's an anagram? What can we find contained within those 4 words? Well, I'll tell you what we can find. We can find these letters. These letters that when rearranged they spell out Maradona. Now, I'm not telling you that Maradona's going to be in your FPL squad, because come on, I may be a little bit tapped, but I'm not completely stupid. But what's at the bottom of the sign? It says Greymouth, and what's the most famous mouth around here? Yes, it's Tynemouth. And which club is on the Tyne? Well, it's the one that wears the black and white, and when you converge those 2 colours you get the colour grey. And then you look at that date, 1982, you flip those 2 middle actual numbers, and you get 1892, the year that Newcastle United, who wear the famous black and white, the year they were formed. So we're talking about the Geordies, and we're talking about Maradona, and just a couple of lines above that, it says of the Forest, the Geordie Maradona of the Forest, Elliot Anderson joins our squad. And now you can see where we're going with this. Now you can see what is contained within the famous Nick Triggerlip's videos. These are the depths you have to go for the clues, but that's just a surface one. I'm not saying anyone could have found Elliot Anderson there, but if you had the sort of knowledge of the North East that I do, maybe it would have been a little bit easier for you as well. But we're about to get to the really out there ones, but on the way where Nick Triggerlips is driving to the location of the most unbelievable clues you will ever find in FPL, he drove down a lane, and on that lane it said 3 words. It repeated them twice, and those 3 words were 1 lane bridge. The number 1, the goalkeeper of the clubs that play at the Lane and at the Bridge. Well, Spurs don't play at White Hart Lane anymore, but I'm going to count that as Kinski or Vicario. And the Bridge, Stamford Bridge, well, Triggerlips is a Chelsea fan, and that means Robert Sanchez is also in there as well. Now, Kinski or Vicario, it's a bit hard to say, but we will go with Kinski for now, just because he's £4 million, and our budget already feels like it's getting a little bit stretched. So there we have it. In one drive of the road we find our goalkeepers. And I know what you're thinking, Nightmare Man, before you saw 1 lane bridge on the road, there was them 2 signs that said the number 35 on there. And look, I went back and I had a look, and I tried to see if any players in the FPL pool wore number 35 last season, and I couldn't find anyone relevant. But then I looked through the points that people scored last season, and there were 3 players that scored 35 points. There was Ortega Merino from Man City. Now, he might not be relevant at the minute, but James Trafford has just signed for Man City, and that could see Ortega Merino on the move. And if he goes to another Premier League team, he could well be a 3rd option in goal for our squad. The second player who scored 35 points last year, well, that was Fabio Carvalho of Brentford. Now, he has not been a prominent player for them since his move from Liverpool. However, with Umbumo having moved and Wissa also on the way, could this be the year Fabio Carvalho cements his place in the first team? It's possible. It's worth keeping an eye on. But the interesting one was the 3rd player who'd scored 35 points, and that was Richarlison. And do you know what's even more interesting? That had the number 35 on the screen twice, and if you double the number 35, that doubles to 70. And do you know what Richarlison's total amount of league games for Tottenham Hotspurs is? You wouldn't believe it, but it's true. He's played 70 games for Spurs. So Richarlison, even though we think he's surely not an option, he has to go into the squad list too. The next relevant clue was at 10 minutes and 13 seconds when Nick Triggerlips pulled over to the sign, but we're going to save that for last, and I'll tell you for why, because this is the truly elite, bizarre thinking. This is the sort of thing that you're just not going to be able to wrap your head around. So I want to save that, I want to build you up to that first by showing you how I've managed to deduce these clues with a few simpler ones. So we'll come back to these signs where we find the true differential players through some really bizarre out there thinking. And first we will skip forward to 13 minutes and 10 seconds. And at 13 minutes and 10 seconds Nick Triggerlips came across a frozen lake. Now, the film Frozen, it didn't really have a lake, but it did have a frozen river. And in Disney's Frozen, inspired by the sort of environments and settings you'd find in Norse mythology over in Norway, in Frozen 2, the frozen river is called the Arto-Harlan. Or could that mean the Otto Haaland? Is Haaland, our automatic captain. Well, that parrot, it did say Florian Wirtz for game week 1. However, I am not ruling out making Erling Haaland the auto captain for this team. How can you, when the frozen lake is right there? The Arto Haaland is right there. And again, I'm sure that's a clue a lot of people would have found. Maybe they wouldn't have put it together like that. Maybe they wouldn't have looked up for the Disney references. But this is what you have to do to get ahead in FPL. You have to go the extra mile to find the hidden clues. And here at 17 minutes and 3 seconds, we had to pause it and we had to get it frame by frame perfect. And what do we find on the license plate of the second car? FCW 949. Now what could those letters stand for? Well, I'm telling you, as Nick Triggerlips drives through New Zealand, maybe they're saying forward Chris Wood, the number 9 with 49 goals for Burnley in the league. I know it sounds crazy. Bloody hell, FPL Nightmare, you're reaching a bit here, aren't you? Maybe I am. Maybe I am straining. Maybe I am manipulating the evidence to fit my own narrative. But FCW, CW, Chris Wood, F for forward, a number 9 with 49 league goals for Burnley. That cannot be a coincidence. And lest we forget, we did earlier in the video see a massive pile of timber. Maybe it wasn't Jurriën Timber referring to, maybe that was the first clue about Chris Wood. Who knows, but we're going to put Chris Wood in the squad as well. Now this is the final clue before we go back to those signs where you're really going to find that next level analysis. And this is 1829 when, for the second time in a video, we see a slippery when wet sign. Now, Slippery When Wet, that was an album by Bon Jovi. That was the breakthrough album, and maybe we are living on a prayer a bit here while we search for these clues for the perfect FPL squad. But did you know that the album Slippery When Wet by Bon Jovi was named after the number 5 Orange strip club in Vancouver? Now ask yourself this, who is the Dutch number 5? You might think, oh bloody hell, here he is again, he's manipulating the narrative. He just wants to get Van Dijk in his team. Well, I could do, especially with Van of Vancouver. But that's not who the Dutch number 5 is. No, the Dutch number 5 is Nathan Ake. Now, who in the right mind is going to put Nathan Ake in the team? It seems crazy. Well, is it? I mean, when you look at Man City, they've got Aït-Nouri at left back. They've got Gvardiol at left centre back. Now, if Aït-Nouri misses out and Gvardiol moves over to the left back role, who else could play left centre back? I'll tell you who. It's the man that played there with aplomb for many years, Nathan Ake, who can also cover that left back role. So if Aït-Nouri does miss out for any reason, Nathan Ake could well be the man to step into the team for him. Maybe what Nick Triggerlips' video has found is that going big at the back is the answer, and that covering the risky Aït-Nouri with his deputy Nathan Ake may well be the answer. I don't know. All I can do is present you the clues. And now, as I revert the clues back to 10 minutes and 13 seconds, this is where we are going to the next level, because this sign is all about the Grebes, the Grebes, the Grebes of Lake Linden. So I don't know a lot about the Great Crested Grebes of Lake Linden, but when I was researching the Great Crested Grebes, the Australasian one in particular, it led me to Wikipedia. Now, the Australasian one is also native to Penrith, and that makes me think I'm on the right track. So I read the entry, the one relevant to me, the one related to Penrith. And do you know what the Maori name for the Australasian Great Crested Grebe is? Would you believe it? And you might have to forgive my pronunciation here. The Puteketeke. 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 This is just what the research shows. You might not believe me, but it's there on the screen for your eyes to see. Puteketeke is the Maori word for the Australasian crested grebe. Nick Triggerlips leading us to that differential pick when most people would go Salah. Maybe they'd go Wirtz as a second attacker. but maybe what we need to do is listen to the Parrot who says Salah is overpriced, and listen to the great crested Grebe of Australasia which says Puteke Teke. Look, I'm self-aware enough to know that you're thinking that I'm a little bit tapped in the head here, and you would be right. You know, I'm not what you would call neurotypical, but what I am is someone that can find these disparate pieces of puzzles and put them together to create something that the ordinary mind cannot comprehend, that the ordinary mind cannot find for itself. And Nick Triggerlip has delivered the clues for someone like me to overthink and overanalyze and do the research to find these players. Now, we have put together one hell of a squad so far. I will just run it down for you now. We've got Florian Wirtz, we've got Fabian Schär, Bowen, Aït-Nouri, Cole Palmer, Erling Haaland. We have got Timber, we've got Saka, we've got Brian Mbeumo, we've got the Geordie Maradona himself, Elliot Anderson, we've got Richarlison, Ortega Merino, Fabio Carvalho. We've got the goalkeepers of both Spurs and Chelsea. We have found double confirmation that Erling Haaland should be in the squad. We have found Chris Wood. And we have also found Nathan Ake, the Dutch defender nobody's going to be thinking about. And we have just seen, if we get a little bit psychological in our analysis, we even found when you translate to different languages, when you go deeper into the research, we found you don't just decline Mo Salah, you bring in Ekitike. I can't get that name right, but my mind is not thinking of pronunciations, it's thinking of these clues, these secrets I've found in the video of the man who has 4 top 1k finishes, Nick Triggerlip, a 35th in the world finish. And this is where it gets to the real next level, because at 10 minutes and 33 seconds we see on the sign the Veronica Lilliputiana. I think I've pronounced that right. Now, if we do a little bit of research into that plant, which most people won't do, but I will, because I'm trying to help you find the edge, you will find this was discovered by Aston. Now, I don't know who Aston is, I don't know at all, but also on that list, also on that sign, is the Isolepis basilaris. You know, I don't know what these things are. I presume there's some sort of plants and fauna, and what these plants and fauna do, they put down roots, and these ideas have put down root in my head. So I looked further on that sign and I saw the Isolepis basilaris, and I researched it, and I came to this list of all these different Isolepis species, and I scrolled down that list, the list that we were led to by Aston. And what did I see? I saw the Isolepis inconspicua. We have already had an anagram earlier to find the Geordie Maradona. Now, what is inconspicua an anagram for? If you change the letters of the word inconspicua around, you get the 4 words you pick concert in. And I cannot make this up. It is there for you to find if you go to the link on the list of Isolepis species on Wikipedia. The Isolepis inconspicua, you pick concert in. Concert, who is the perfect cover if, like Praz said, you get an Arsenal defender in and you hit free hit game week 6, and you need an Aston Villa defender to cover those other 2 tough fixtures for Arsenal. You pick concert in. It's unbelievable. But do you know what the funny thing is? It doesn't stop there. You see, I searched the rest of the list, and what did I find? The Isolepis leptostachya, stack from Leeds, is literally spelt out. So Stack from Leeds goes in our squad as well. And then that's not all. This is the final clue, and this is something a bit special, because from this one we get those final 2 names we need. So after the Leptostachya, I scrolled down that list and I found one more that really stood out to me, and that was the Isolepis Ludwigi. I don't know how to pronounce it, but you split that word up and you get Ludwig and 2 I's. Now, 2 I's in Roman numerals, that signifies the the number 2. So I thought, loving a puzzle as I do, maybe this is telling me to search the cast list for the detective programme Ludwig, and in it I found 2 FPL related surnames inside the first 3 cast members, David Mitchell and Deepo Ola. Now, could that be indicating Tyrick Mitchell of Crystal Palace and Ola Aina of Nottingham Forest? Well, why wouldn't it be? This is what we've found. This is how this video of Nick Triggerlips has gone. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy the research you have to do to find these clues, but this is what it takes to go to the next level. If you want to finish 35th in the world like Nick Triggerlips, you have to be prepared to put the effort in. And that's what we've done with that breakdown of that video. So we have been left with the following squad. We've got Sanchez and Kinski, maybe Ortega Marino in goal. In defence we've got Cher, we've got Aitnori, we've got Timber, Konsa, Ake, Mitchell and Ola Aina. In midfield we've got Wirtz, we've got Palmer, we've got Saka, we've got Elliot Anderson, we've got Brian Mbeumo, Stack and Fabio Carvalho, and up top we've got Hugo Ekitike, we've got Erling Haaland, we've got Chris Wood, Jared Bowen and of course the enigmatic Richarlison. Now that is some squad to pick from. It's too many for FPL, which only permits a 15-man squad, so I had to do a bit more research. I had to figure out for myself the squad, and the first thing I did was to put in the clues which I thought were the strongest, and from that I came up with this squad. You've got Sanchez and Kinski in goal, you've got Aitnori, Ake, Cher, Timber and Konsa, you've got Mbeumo, Palmer, Saka, Wirtz and Anderson in midfield, and up front you've got Haaland, Ekitike and Wood. I thought those were the 15 strongest names suggested in this video. I mean, they're all a little bit of a stretch, but I thought these were the ones with the more solid foundations, and I thought, bloody hell, that squad is sensational. Between the Parrot and Nick Triggerlips, they have found the cheat code to win FPL this season. And then I had a look further up, and I saw it's 8.5 million over the budget, and I'm reminded why they always tell you never to work with animals. But I was not prepared to give in, so I tweaked it around a bit. I put in a couple of the different names, and then we got this squad: Sanchez, Kinski, Aitnori, Timber, Konsa, Aina and Mitchell. In midfield we dropped Saka for Stack. We've still got Mbeumo, Palmer, Wirtz and Elliot Anderson, and then up front we've got Haaland, Wood and Ekitike still. And I thought, again, you know, a couple of changes and that squad is still phenomenal. You know, Stack, a nice solid 5 million sub on your bench, he's not going to waste too much money. You know, that defence as well, you've got Konsa to step in for those 2 games if you follow Praz's plan from his video. That's a good squad. And then I looked up again and it's still 2.5 million over budget, and I'm thinking maybe I've got this all wrong. But then I remembered all I have to do is take out Haaland for Jared Bowen and we've nailed it. But I don't really want to take Haaland out because I think Haaland had the strongest case of all. And so we had to work it around a little bit, and the problem is the only way you can really work it around is by having Fabio Carvalho in the team, and I just don't think it leaves the midfield looking very good at all. So the problem is we're going to have to leave out Haaland, and I mean, you know, you look at that team without Haaland and it's a good team, you know. Sanchez in goal, Aitnori, Aina, Timber, Konsa and Mitchell as cover, Mbeumo, Palmer, Wirtz and Anderson in midfield with Stack as cover, and then up front you've got Bowen, you've got Wood and you've got Ekitike. That could go off, but the big clue was Haaland. It said him twice. It referenced the Norse frozen lake. Frozen, of course. The star of the show had the long flowing blonde hair, just like Haaland. So while I feel like this video of Triggerlips has given us a lot of clues, it has given us a viable squad. Do you know what it is? I'm not entirely convinced. I'm not convinced it has given us the final squad just yet. But we're on the way, people. We are on the way. And while you may think, oh bloody hell, Nightmare's wasted our time here, I haven't really, have I? I mean, we've all had a lot of fun, and here we have the framework, and the question is are we going to get more clue videos from Nicky Triggerlips before the start of the season, which will help refine this squad base we've built, maybe change some names, maybe bring new ones into the picture, who knows? But I know I'll be subscribing to Nick Triggerlips to find out, and I hope you do too, because in amongst all his clue videos, he's out here giving strategy, he's giving advice, he's giving his thoughts on the game, honed from almost 20 years, over 20 years of experience, 4 top 1k finishes, he's got that 35th place finish, he's an unbelievable player, and he's giving you the advice for free. So do what I do and subscribe to Nick Triggerlips, put him on your morning rotation when you watch his videos, and maybe the clues aren't for you, but the rest of it might just be. And for those of you like me who like to think a little differently about the game, well, why don't we see together if we can find some more clues from Triggerlips to put together the perfect Game Week 1 squad. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.